I've been working in the same building for the past 20 years. And my drive to work from home, I take the same route, and my 35-minute drive to the office is pretty scenic for the most part. I drive down Great East Road, I go over the flyover bridge, turn left onto Cairo Road. Everything's fine pretty much until I get to the Central Business District, the CBD, the hub of our city, Lusaka. And each time I'd get there, I would see unregulated vending stands for miles. I'd look at our streets. Our streets were strewn with litter and garbage. And I'd often ask myself the question, why must we live this way? Why must we function in this environment? Are we then relegated to working and being inundated in squalor and filth? Why can't we take care of this beautiful city of ours? And I'll be very frank with you, at one point I sort of lost hope. That was up until the last quarter of 2017. Some of you may know this, but there was a meeting that was held. The Ministry of Local Government and Housing, the Ministry of Health, along with the Mayor's office, met with the President of Zambia. And they told him, Mr. President, we have a potential disaster on our hands. There's this leviathan of a disease that we call cholera that is ravaging our nation. And you, sir, have to circle the wagons on this issue and move swiftly. If you don't do it, our people will begin to die like flies. And we all know where the buck's going to stop when that happens. And so, from that meeting, the president, Zambian government, unleashed and released the army on our streets. For the first time, at least in my lifetime, I'm 50 years old, I'd never seen this before. For the first time, we saw men and women in military fatigue patrolling our streets in the CBD. And they were there primarily to do two things. The first thing was they were there to remove every single solitary vending stand in the CBD. Secondly, they were there to supervise the cleaning exercise that had been launched. We saw soldiers telling bystanders and people walking down our sidewalks and streets, go over there, dismantle that vending stand, and throw it in that pile over there. Everybody was expected to participate. We all did. I did. And you must begin to understand, and I know this is somewhat controversial, but it's the truth. You cannot have a holistic, comprehensive conversation about cleanliness without aggressively dealing with the issue of street vending. The two are linked, inextricably so. Let me explain. Our street vendors trade on the side of the street, but the challenge is they have three challenges. The first challenge is that the average street vendor does not have access to clean running water as they sell and trade on the street. The second challenge is that the street vendor has no shelter to protect them from the elements. And lastly, and most importantly, the street vendor has no access to functional toilets. Some of you may know this, when vendors trade on the street and they want to relieve themselves, they use a makeshift plastic container, and then they toss it into an open drainage system that's usually located directly behind them. Now, when the government pushed this new agenda of cleanliness, it launched the Make Zambia Clean, Green, and Healthy campaign. Now, it was very important for the architects of this new campaign to word this campaign slightly differently. We've had similar campaigns in the past. Campaigns like Keep Lusaka Clean, Keep Zambia Clean. But you see, those campaigns didn't work because the word keep, you cannot keep something clean if it's not clean in the first place. The idea is to, first of all, make it clean and then subsequently keep it clean. That was the idea. That was the line of thinking. Now, you may ask, how do we do this? It's very simple. We go back to the beginning. The rudimentary rule of throwing your stuff in the bin. Sadly, most of us don't know how to do that. Or if we do know how to do it, we choose not to do it. And I think that is where we need to begin. So in an effort to mitigate the plight of the street vendor and also to deal with the issue of people arbitrarily throwing stuff on the street, the government launched a new campaign to build these new markets all over the city. Markets like Simoson Mwewa Market, that's located on Mwewa Lane. And to make sure that our streets are clean. We don't want a situation where our vendors are trading on the street, because the truth is you cannot have a clean street and have street vendors. That's a misnomer. The two don't go together. It's either you have one or the other. So what we decided to do in our area where I work is that instead of waiting for the government and the local government, the local authority and the municipal to come and clean our streets, we began to do it ourselves. But we noticed one thing. No matter how much we would sweep the street, it would go right back to being littered again. We felt like the Greek mythological character Sisyphus. Some of you know Sisyphus. He was cursed by the gods to eternally roll a boulder up the hill, and when he would get to the top of the hill, the boulder would roll all the way back down, and he would have to do that over and over again for an eternity. We felt that way. So one of the things we decided to do was we called all of the street vendors that work and operate in our area. We called the women. We called the young men, and we said, look, we need to synergize here. We need to work together. We can't sweep the street alone. When we see you walking by, don't be surprised when we call upon you to participate. They agreed. And so one day, I was standing on the street corner, and I see this young lady. She was carrying a baby. And I knew this lady. And it was very hot that day. And I decided to pull out my phone, and I began to record her. And I said, lady, I called to her, and she came over, and I said, please put your basket down. And I said, you see that plastic sachet over there? Go over there and pick it up and throw it in the bin. She did it without hesitation. She did it without resistance. She did it without protest, because she knew that we had agreed we have to work together in this area. The moment I posted that video on Facebook, the backlash was ferocious. I had so many people write me
How could you do such a thing? How could you ask a woman carrying a baby in the scalding heat to bend over, pick up a plastic sachet, and throw it in the bin? How unconscionable. And I'll be honest with you, I knew why we did what we did. And the lady knew why we did what we did. And this woman, as mundane as it may sound to you and I, this woman knew what synergy was. And she knew, and she embodied the old African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. Thank you.